Slayer is a skill that has really evolved over the past 5 years of old school RuneScape. From the old school RuneScape server release in 2013 to the current times of May of 2017, we have seen Slayer meta, or most efficient technique available, go from roughly 25k experience per hour to 85k. Slayer has progressed from the slowest skill in the game to almost being in the middle of the pack in terms of experience per hour. These changes have occurred due to new updates, better armor and weaponry, and new techniques to train the skill. Today, I want to take you down the journey of how we got there. In 2013, the most efficient Slayer method was using the Slayer Master Chaldar in Xanaris. Chaldar was used because of her greater probability of assigning canon tasks, specifically Dagonos and Calphites. It is important to note that during this time, there were no standardized spawn rates, meaning that the most populated worlds respawned monsters the fastest. This made Calphites an interesting Slayer task, as many players would fight over the most populated worlds to slay Calphite soldiers inside the Calphite lair. During this time, Slayer was done using Zamorak Brews, a Dragon Battle Axe, and Restore Potions. Most players also used Overhead Prayers, specifically protect from melee. Since there were no skip tasks, if a player didn't want to do a particular task, they would instead go to Turiel and have him override their current Slayer task. Slayer was roughly 20 to 25k experience per hour. Towards the later part of the year, in August, the Saradomin Godsword and Bandulus armor came out, allowing players to minimize the amount of tasks that they had to use overheads at. Also, in December of this year, Slayer experience per hour increased to 35 to 40k after the release of the Slayer reward system in Neve. The Slayer reward system allowed players to gain points on tasks, as well as cancel and block tasks that gave poor experience per hour. Neve was similar to Chaldar, offering many canon tasks. Towards the end of 2013, it is also important to note the release of the Nightmare Zone minigame. This is important because it would eventually allow for AFK Guthans, which would affect Slayer dramatically in the years to come. In January of 2014, Neve's Cave was introduced. Neve's Cave allowed players convenience when slaying. It contained nearly everything a player needed to slay, including Bloodvelds, Hellhounds, Aberrant Spectres, Greater Demons, Fire Giants, Dragons, Necreals, and Abyssal Demons. This convenience increased experience rates to a consistent 40k experience per hour. In July of this year, standardized spawn rates occurred, meaning that world population had no longer affected respawn rates. This was important for Slayer because players didn't have to fight over the most populated worlds to slay in. In January of 2015, Zulrah entered the game, and one of its drops, the Toxic Blowpipe, changed Slayer drastically. The Blowpipe was the new best damage per second weapon in the game, which meant that the meta for Slayer was using the Blowpipe. To combat the lost melee experience, players would just Nightmare Zone Guthans during the night. Blowpipe increased Black Demons and Hellhounds to 50k experience per hour, and Fire Giants to 54k experience per hour. In August of this year, Jad Slayer tasks were introduced, which allowed 75k experience per hour if you were good at fight caves. Also in 2015, many players began discovering barraging Smoke Devils, which was roughly 112k experience per hour. However, most people did not fully understand the concept of barraging Smoke Devils at the time, so experience rates were far less than what they are today. By September of this year, Nightmare Zone was nerfed, and the 6-hour AFK method was removed. This drastically changed Slayer again, making melee the meta again. In October, the Abyssal Sire was introduced, and the bludgeon became a popular weapon for Slayer, especially at Calphites and Gargoyles. Since Gargoyles were weak to crush, the speed of the bludgeon made it efficient to unblock the task at the time. However, this was short-lived, as players soon discovered methods of getting 160k combat experience per hour. Overall, players could get between 45 and 48k experience per hour in 2015 for Slayer. By 2016, players were starting to master Smoke Devils, and from January to June, the Slayer experience per hour rates dramatically rose to between 50 and 55k. In June of 2016, the Catacombs of Karen were released, which offered multi-combat Slayer into the game. This was an interesting time period because up until then, most players had neck reels as a block task. However, this update made players remove them from their block lists and barrage them inside the Catacombs instead. For the first few months of Catacombs, most players continued slaying as they did in 2015, with the exception of barraging neck reels by luring them with their ults. Barraging neck reels raised the experience per hour to between 60 and 65k. By September of this year, superior Slayer encounters came out, which spawned a superior monster at a 1 in 200 chance. These superior monsters were stronger than their counterparts, but also offered nice experience for killing them. Superior Slayer also offered valuable drops, including the imbued heart. These drops ultimately decreased the cost of Slayer, which helped a lot of players out. Towards the end of the year, players began barraging everything, and with the superior encounters, Slayer experience rose to 70 to 75k Slayer experience per hour. In January of 2017, another big update made its way to old school RuneScape, Raids. Raids offered the new best-in-slot magic weapon, the Kodai Wand, as well as the new best-in-slot magic armor, Ancestral. These updates significantly improved barraging Slayer, and experience rates rose to between 80 and 82k experience per hour. By March of this year, another important update came out, Silver Jewelry. Silver Jewelry improved Slayer yet again. The Silver Jewelry update released the Expeditious Bracelet. The Expeditious Bracelet offered a 25% chance of counting one Slayer assignment kill as 2, which helped speed up tasks that gave lower experience per hour. The update also introduced the Bracelet of Slaughter, which gave a player a 25% chance for a Slayer assignment kill to not count as a kill towards their task, but still providing the appropriate Slayer experience for the kill. The Bracelet of Slaughter allowed players to barrage tasks for longer amounts of time. Ultimately, the Silver Jewelry update allows players to reduce the time of their poor tasks by 20% and increase the time of their good tasks by 33%. At the end of April, following player feedback, Neve's Cave was completely remapped. Most of the monsters were removed and relocated to other areas of Gielinor to avoid convenience and easy escape. Only Bloodhounds, Hellhounds, Aberrant Spectres, Anku, and Fire Giants remained. The key monsters that really affected meta that were moved, including the Calphites to the Calphite Hive east of Shantae Pass, and Smoke Devils to their own dungeons south of Castle Wars. In 2017, this is how Slayer is done. A player's block list includes Hellhounds, Abyssal Demons, Gargoyles, Black Demons, Greater Demons, and the Kraken. Players use the Slaughter Bracelet at Smoke Devils, Necreals, Dust Devils, Dagonoths, and Calphites. Players use the Expeditious Bracelet at Trolls, Sukwas, Bloodvelds, Black Dragons, and Dark Beasts. Everything else is a skip task. Well guys, this completes yet another video, how Slayer has evolved from 2013 to 2017. In this video, we have seen Slayer meta increase the Slayer experience per hour from 25k to 85k. I want to give a shout out to Dead Wilson and Randalicious for helping me with this video. You guys can follow them on Twitter at JohnWilsons and at Randalicious. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please hit suggested videos on the right hand side. This improves the YouTube algorithm and allows my videos to get suggested to an audience that I don't have. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel today. If you guys have any video suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. Also, come hang out with me in my Dead Clan chat, Mac_H. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.